Hi everyone, it is Sunday the 14th of June 2020 and I'm having a look at the global indices. So we had become a little bit overextended on the daily. We were due for a bit of a correction, but actually more importantly on the weekly. I'm starting off here with Wall Street. This is the Dow. We had a really big weekly and I commented last week on these unusually large candles and therefore I was prepared for a potential pullback. So we had another aggressive down day on Thursday. We had, sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of deeper pullbacks, and then Friday a bit of a recovery on that, actually sitting at a weekly level here. So what I'm acknowledging is in isolation, we have a bullish trend and we have a bullish setup here. And there is what's called this hidden bullish divergence here, which just is implying that there is the potential here. If we do break the high of this on Monday, that there is going to be an attempt by the market at least to climb a lot higher. So obviously the whole idea here is acknowledging that we are living in very volatile times, that this behavior is unusual. I am noting the potential bearish rejection candle here on the monthly. So what I'm going to be watching until the end of the month is to see the shape of this. Do we finish and close above this level with a nice bullish candle, which would then be a good indication actually that the market is able to get back up above this and that the market is potentially going to recover. On the other hand, should we finish with a strong bearish rejection candle on the monthly and then break the low of that in the first few days of the next month? The implication being that that is a very bearish rejection of that level, and therefore we could solidly expect price to head back down towards 24,000 or of course lower. Of course, what could happen if the market decides to have a strong reaction is we could just find that this candle finishes and closes as a red candle all the way down. That can happen in the next couple of weeks. So I'm aware that there is increased volatility this week. I'm just commenting that the daily looks nice and bullish. The weekly has now had a retracement back down to a key level, and therefore any setups from the side, if the daily does decide to take a move up, it would have basically let some of that pressure off on the weekly, and on the daily it would be a valid setup. So looking at the S&P 500, same thing again. It is kind of just below the moving averages, but it is coming down to support and resistance areas. It's a nice recovery back down to a nice round number here. And also I'm looking at that monthly candle. So again, similar to what I've mentioned in the commodities and the indices, the FX, Forex currencies, as well as commodities, I've mentioned that there are some kind of forks in the road this week, so I'll have to keep an eye on those. So looking here again at the NASDAQ generally being the most bullish of the bunch. That's not really a very bullish candlestick by comparison to the other ones we've seen. It's also just noting that we've come back down previous highs. Wouldn't it be interesting if there's bearish divergence there? Yes, there is. Okay, there's clear bearish divergence on both indicators. The implication being that this may well be, that might kind of be the end of the road for this, at least for the time being, that price may not be able to get back up above that level, and we can see price breaking the low of this week and heading lower. So that's interesting to me. The NASDAQ here implying with this that it's really not as strong, and that bearish divergence could be a setup for a rejection, and a strong bearish rejection at this level, that would just also indicate if the strongest market is going to get a very strong rejection, that does not bode well for the other market. So I'm not trying to fearmonger here, I'm just outlining what I'm going to be looking for this week. So that being said, let's carry on. So Russell 2000 has also set up with a bullish candle, bit of a recovery on the Friday. I'm looking at these rejection candles. This is a rejection of support, which could become resistance. FTSE 100 pulling back up into the moving averages, which have now reordered themselves into a bearish formation, back into potential resistance. So that could be significant. Again, just going back up, looking at the daily here. So a break lower before breaking the high would be a bearish signal. So in other words, keeping an eye on Friday's low and Friday's high would be important for me on Monday and Tuesday this week. Because it will reveal where the likely direction is of the remainder of the week. Of course, you can get a setup where the market breaks the high and then fails and falls badly. That can happen, but that is going to be the least likely of the outcomes. Not impossible, just the least likely. So the DAX here, having pullback, produced a bullish signal on a historical level. So again, these have all set up, in many cases, they've set up at least in isolation on the daily as a bullish setup attempting to stay where it is. So for me, as I said, I'm going to repeat this Monday and Tuesday. What I'm looking for, I'm going to be keeping an eye across the board on all of these that have set up with bullish daily candles as to the high and the low of Friday, to see if we break the high first or we break the low first. That will give me a good indication as to how the rest of the week is potentially likely to play out. Okay, Hang Seng, no clarity on that. I'm just looking again. I must emphasize that currently the monthly charts look more bearish than bullish. The daily charts look more bullish than bearish, and the weekly charts look fine. So you really do have a split right down the middle of all of these. And as I said, the only one the one that's usually leading it would be the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq itself is actually looking slightly weaker than it's normally the leader. It's always looking the most bearish, and it's looking a little bit weak. So if I take that into account, the implication is that the markets are going to head lower this coming week. If I ignore that, the implication is the markets are probably going to attempt to climb higher this week. Okay, so it's probably very prudent to stay on the sidelines and just keep an eye out, because if it starts heading low, it's going to do it very fast. Okay, again, same thing here. Even the ASX Australia hasn't even set up with a bullish candle here. The weekly looks fine. The monthly, a bit of a rejection potentially setting up there. And so that's it. Just going back to these, as I said, just to recap one more time, the dailies in isolation look nice and bullish. I'll be tracking the highs of Friday's highs and lows Monday and Tuesday, but it's most likely going to happen on Monday. If we might even gap down or gap up, we'll see how that goes. On the market open, rejection candle on the monthly, so I'm looking to see if that closes ultimately as a bullish candle, or if it closes as a bearish red candle. And really, this week is going to reveal how strong the market really is, how stable the market is.